I like to think that I am actually more like my dad than my mom. He would always be interested in the stuff that I was into. I guess it was easy for him though. We used to make all sorts of stuff together. Model planes, wooden toys, working conveniences, such as an actual working flashlight. One time we even made a keg. My dad would make his own beer. There was one incident in particular that I remember very well. It was the first model that we had ever built together. After weeks and weeks of hard work, we had put it all together, and we had painted the inside as well as the top third. Dad came outside on a hot summer day, around lunchtime, to disrupt me and my brother, Ben, playing. He said that it was time to paint the rest. He already had the brushes out. But when he got the paint out, I could see that it wasn't the correct color. This paint was more of a grayish blue, darker than the original. Also, the containers were different. The other one looked like one of those huge cans of house paint, only like 20 times smaller, but still with those tops that you have to pry off. This one had a screw top. I told him that we had the wrong color. He insisted that this was the one we had used, and that we had only looked at the other one. I got upset, insisting over and over again that he was wrong. After a few minutes of listening to me fuss, he sat the model down on the cardboard he had laid out. He then proceeded to hand me the brushes and the paint, instructing me to shake the paint for about a minute to prevent separation. Still grumbling, I sat down on one of the rough, reddish tiles of our patio next to the wooden picnic table. I was still a little sheltered from the sun by the umbrella in the center. I began to paint with carefully guided strokes. I could tell that the colors were different. After the decals and the sprays, it actually ended up looking pretty good. I still have that model, although all of the propellers have broken off, and one wing is on its last leg. I would always get upset because Ben would also do stuff with him, but when I would ask to join, Ben would simply say no. I would get so upset, not only because it wasn't fair, but also I could tell that my brother was partly discriminating me because I'm a girl, even though I am better at him than some of the stereotypical boy things. I love that my dad never judged me because of my gender. We could find common ground, both doing what we loved together. I always loved his music. You might think that this meant we would listen to country and play acoustic guitars, but in reality, we would be playing some amazing metal.
Rock and roll.
Dad was usually the bass, Ben would be the drums, and I would be vocalist or lead guitar. I didn't actually know how to play, but it was fun to fool around. My mom would take videos of us, and we would pretend to be real rock stars. Dancing, doing the hair whip, playing the guitars on our knees, and throwing the drumsticks up into the air. One time, Ben threw a stick, and it hit Dad on the head. He was mad at first, but then laughed it off. Dad had many real bands, the kind that played at concerts. The band that was the most important to him was called Regrets. He was in this band before he even met my mom. It was made up of his friends and him. 3 late teen to early 20s boys. There were other bands too. I think my favorite was called Lacrimator. The songs are just so amazing. Also, he was in a band called Pandion. He actually made shirts for this band using screen printing. I still have them. That Thursday, we were all eating dinner together. Dad was upset for some reason. I can't quite remember why. He got up and went outside. He liked to have time alone when he was upset. That was the last time I ever saw him alive. It was a Friday morning. I woke up around 6 o'clock, before anyone else in my family, to check on a science project about plants I had been working on. A little later, my mom got up, like any other morning. She went into the living dining room to open up the curtains. A few seconds later, she ran back and told me that Dad wasn't breathing. Not knowing what to do, I simply said, "Call someone." I went back to my room, hoping it was a bad dream. The paramedics arrived, and soon our living room was full of commotion. My grandparents came over, and so did my aunt. She had left my cousins at home. My mom woke up my brother and sent us both to watch TV in her room. We were watching Liv and Maddie. A little later, she informed us that Dad had died and that we could stay home from school. She also said we could come and say goodbye. I didn't want to at first, but Mom said that I would regret it forever if I didn't, so I did. I remember there were these women who came. Their whole job was to help families who had suffered a loss. I began to cut up strawberries for me and Ben, and they remarked on how much I was on top of things. After lunch, I decided to come back to school specifically for science class. We only had science once a week on Friday afternoons. When I got to class, my teacher, Mrs. Westfall, told me that they were glad to have me there. The person I was sitting next to, Bryn, asked me if I was in trouble. When I shook my head no, she asked why I was late. I ignored her, not wanting to talk about it. My aunt picked me up. Over the weekend, the kids at school found out. The question I heard the most on Monday was, "Were you close?" I would always respond with, "Yes, of course, he was my dad." I believe the experience has changed me a lot. It has definitely made me more mature and in charge. I guess I felt like I had to become the dad of the family, to grow up really fast so I could take on his responsibilities. In the same way, I had to learn to become a mom. My mom isn't around as much because she has to support a family all on her own. She went from a stay-at-home mom bookbinder to a full-time working single parent. I have to do all the things that she did when she was at home. At first, we thought he had died of a heart attack. And then we found out it was an overdose of certain drugs and alcohol. I love that my dad taught me so much about everything. He made me who I am today.